What if the power to heal your body was never outside you? What if it has always been within you, silent, waiting to be awakened? Centuries ago, the great mystic Ibn Arabi revealed that the body and the soul are not separate. They are reflections of the same divine truth. When the soul remembers who it is, the body begins to heal. Today, we uncover his 3 hidden laws of healing ancient truths that can awaken the healer within you and restore the harmony your soul has always known. The first and most profound of Ibn Arabi's healing principles is the law of unity. It is not merely a concept, it is a complete way of seeing existence, a way of understanding yourself and the world that can dissolve the boundaries between sickness and health, between the physical and the spiritual, between you and the divine. Ibn Arabi taught that everything that exists is an expression of one continuous reality. Nothing stands apart from it. The river, the stars, the earth, your body, your breath, all are reflections of a single, infinite source of life. When you forget this unity, when you begin to see yourself as separate, isolated, or disconnected from that flow, imbalance arises. That imbalance is what we often call illness. To Ibn Arabi, healing was not about fighting disease or resisting pain. It was about remembrance. He used the term dhikr, which means to remember, to return to awareness of truth. The truth is that your essence is not different from the essence of life itself. Your being is not cut off from the divine. When you live in that remembrance, harmony naturally returns to the body and mind. When you live in forgetfulness, you begin to feel fragmented. Parts of your being stop communicating with one another, and that inner division manifests as physical or emotional pain. Imagine a stream flowing effortlessly through a valley. The water is clear and pure, always moving. Now imagine throwing stones into it, stones of fear, anger, regret, and false beliefs about who you are. Slowly the flow becomes disturbed. The water grows murky, sluggish, and stagnant. Illness, in the eyes of Ibn Arabi, is like this stagnation of the spirit. Healing is not about fighting the water or forcing it to move faster. It is about removing the stones. It is about remembering that the stream was never broken. It only needed to flow freely again. When you see yourself as separate from the source of life, you begin to rely on your limited self to solve everything. You carry burdens that were never meant to be carried alone. You try to control outcomes, resist change, and cling to identities that confine you. This effort creates tension within the body and confusion within the heart. Healing begins when you surrender that illusion of separation and allow life to work through you once more. You become like a flute through which the breath of existence flows again, creating harmony instead of noise. Ibn Arabi wrote that every being in creation is a mirror of the divine names. Each of us reflects certain qualities of the infinite. Some of us reflect compassion, others strength, wisdom, patience, beauty, or creativity. When you are connected to your source, these qualities shine naturally through you. But when you feel disconnected, when you forget your divine origin, those same qualities become distorted. Compassion turns into guilt, strength into aggression, wisdom into overthinking. The act of remembering unity realigns those reflections, allowing you to express the divine nature in a balanced way. This inner balance is what the body recognizes as health. In our modern understanding, we often separate physical health from mental and spiritual health. We treat the body as if it were a machine, and the soul as an afterthought. Ibn Arabi's wisdom breaks that illusion completely. To him, the body and soul are not two things, they are one continuum of existence. The body is the visible face of the soul, and the soul is the invisible life of the body. When one suffers, the other speaks. When you heal your consciousness, your body responds. When your body releases pain, your heart opens to greater truth. There is no border between the two. If you look closely, you will notice how your body mirrors your inner world. When you are anxious, your breath shortens. When you hold resentment, your shoulders tighten. When you grieve, your chest feels heavy. These are not random sensations. They are your body's language. It is trying to remind you of what you have forgotten. In those moments, fighting the discomfort only deepens the separation. But if you pause, breathe, and listen with compassion, you begin to dissolve the walls within you. That is the beginning of real healing. Ibn Arabi often described life as a constant unfolding of divine consciousness. Every event, every emotion, even every illness is part of that unfolding. Nothing is meaningless. Everything carries a message. Illness, in this sense, is not a punishment or failure. It is a teacher. It shows where harmony has been lost and where love is needed. If you approach your pain with resistance, you silence the lesson. If you approach it with curiosity and openness, it reveals its wisdom. Think of a time when you were deeply hurt, either physically or emotionally. At first, it might have felt unfair or unbearable. But when you looked deeper, perhaps long after the pain passed, you might have realized it taught you something essential: patience, empathy, humility, or the courage to change. This is what Ibn Arabi meant when he said that what hurts is not against you, but guiding you back to balance. Pain is not the enemy of healing. It is the compass that points toward it. He also believed that every part of creation longs to return to its origin. Just as a plant naturally grows towards sunlight, the human being naturally seeks to return to unity. The body, the heart, and the mind are always trying to restore balance. When you quiet the noise of fear and distraction, this natural intelligence begins to work again. Healing, then, is not something you force, it is something you allow. To live by the law of unity means to remember that you are part of something vast, intelligent, and compassionate. The same force that makes the heart beat and the stars move through the sky is the force that can restore your well-being. You do not need to command it, you only need to cooperate with it. When you live in harmony with that truth, even small acts, like breathing mindfully, eating with gratitude, or speaking kindly become forms of healing. Imagine sitting quietly and becoming aware of your breath. Each inhale connects you to the air that has passed through countless living beings before you. Each exhale returns that air back to the world. Even your breath reminds you that there is no separation. You are in constant exchange with life. You are not a closed system. You are an open current of energy, emotion, and consciousness. The more you realize this, the more your body begins to relax, your heart begins to trust, and your cells begin to respond. Ibn Arabi would often use metaphors drawn from nature. He saw every element of the natural world as a sign of divine unity. The rain does not choose where to fall, it nourishes all without discrimination. The sun does not question who deserves its light. Likewise, when you live in alignment with unity, your love and compassion flow without barriers, and in that flow, healing becomes effortless. The law of unity also teaches that you cannot truly heal yourself while remaining in conflict with others. Because all beings share the same essence, resentment toward another is a form of self-injury. When you hold anger, jealousy, or bitterness, you cut yourself off from the stream of unity. Forgiveness, then, is not a favor to someone else. It is an act of returning to health. To forgive is to remember that the same light lives within every heart, even the one that hurt you. When you see this truth, healing happens spontaneously. In practical terms, applying this law means cultivating awareness in daily life. Notice when you think or speak in ways that divide, when you say, me versus them, good versus bad, right versus wrong. Notice how that energy feels in your body. Usually, it brings tension, shallow breathing, and unease. Now notice when you act from love, when you feel connected or grateful. That energy softens the body, expands the breath, and brings warmth to the heart. Your body instantly knows the difference between separation and unity. It is always signaling you toward the state that supports life. When you practice remembering unity, you start to see miracles in ordinary moments. You begin to feel guided, supported, and alive in ways you might not have before. Opportunities open, relationships heal, even physical symptoms start to shift, because the energy that once resisted life now flows with it. Healing stops being a goal and becomes a natural expression of who you are. The law of unity does not mean denying the reality of illness or pain. It means understanding them differently. You still take care of your body, you still seek help when needed, but you do it from a place of harmony rather than fear. You see medicine, rest, and prayer, not as separate solutions, but as different languages of the same truth. The doctor's care, the body's resilience, and the soul's faith are all movements of the one life that is healing you. Ultimately, the law of unity invites you to live from the awareness that you are whole, not because you have fixed everything, but because you were never truly broken. Beneath the noise of struggle and the layers of self-doubt, your essence remains untouched, radiant, and connected to the source of all existence. When you remember that, healing is no longer a mystery, it is a return to what has always been true. This is the heart of Ibn Arabi's first law. Healing begins not when you fight your pain, but when you listen to it. Not when you seek something outside, but when you turn inward to remember your oneness with all that is. The moment you realize you are never separate, the moment you see yourself as part of the divine whole, the body begins to respond. The mind quiets, the heart softens, and the natural rhythm of life begins to restore itself. That is the first gate of healing, the remembrance of unity, the knowing that you and the source of life are, and always have been, one. The second of Ibn Arabi's hidden laws is the law of reflection, a truth so profound that it transforms the way we see ourselves, others, and the entire experience of healing. If the law of unity teaches that all things are one, then the law of reflection teaches that this oneness reveals itself through mirrors. Everything you encounter, every person, every challenge, every joy or pain, is a reflection of what exists within you. The world, according to Ibn Arabi, is not outside of you. It is a vast mirror in which the soul sees its own face. To understand this law is to recognize that nothing happens to you. Everything happens for you, to show you who you are. When your body becomes ill, when you feel emotional distress, or when you experience conflict, these are not random events. They are messages. They reveal the hidden beliefs, fears, and memories that shape your inner world. Healing, therefore, is not about escaping the outer conditions, but about reading them, understanding what they are trying to tell you, and transforming from within. Ibn Arabi described creation as a mirror through which the divine contemplates itself. Every soul is a fragment of that mirror, reflecting a different aspect of the infinite. When you see beauty, kindness, or light in the world, you are witnessing qualities that already exist within your own being. When you encounter darkness, anger, or limitation, you are seeing the shadowed parts of yourself, asking to be seen, loved, and healed. Nothing appears in your life that is not somehow connected to the inner reality you carry. Think of your body as one of the most honest mirrors you possess. It never lies. It speaks in sensations, fatigue, tightness, and energy. When you feel exhausted, it may be reflecting the burden of unexpressed emotions or thoughts you have suppressed. When you feel pain, it may be showing where love has been withheld from others or from yourself. The body mirrors the state of the soul with perfect accuracy, but most of the time, we mistake the reflection for the cause. We fight the symptom instead of listening to the message. Ibn Arabi taught that true knowledge begins when we stop blaming the mirror and start reading its reflection. If you look in a mirror and see a frown, you do not try to change the mirror. you soften your own expression. Likewise, if life reflects pain, confusion, or loss, the invitation is to turn inward and see what within you is asking for attention. The outer world is simply echoing the vibrations of your inner state. This understanding shifts healing from struggle to revelation. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "What is this trying to show me?" The moment that question arises sincerely, healing begins, because you have stopped resisting reality and started learning from it. Every person you meet also becomes part of this mirror. The qualities you admire in others reflect the potential within yourself, waiting to be expressed. The traits that irritate or anger you often reveal parts of your own psyche that you have disowned. For example, if someone's arrogance bothers you deeply, it may be because you fear that same trait in yourself, or because you have suppressed your own confidence for so long that seeing it in another stirs discomfort. If someone's peace inspires you, it is a reminder that such peace already lives within you, waiting to be awakened. Ibn Arabi saw all relationships as sacred opportunities for self-knowledge. Every interaction, no matter how brief or difficult, is a chance to see another aspect of your soul. When you realize this, judgment begins to dissolve. Compassion takes its place. You stop seeing others as obstacles or enemies and start seeing them as teachers and reflections. Even those who hurt you can become mirrors, revealing where your heart is still closed. And when that realization dawns, forgiveness arises naturally, not as a moral duty, but as a recognition that healing cannot happen through blame. The law of reflection also applies to our emotions. Emotions are reflections of thoughts and beliefs that have taken root in the subconscious mind. Anger reflects a boundary crossed. Sadness reflects attachment to what was. Fear reflects a lack of trust in life's flow. None of these emotions are wrong. They are reflections that guide you back to awareness. Ibn Arabi urged seekers not to suppress emotions, but to observe them gently, to read their message instead of condemning them. In doing so, the emotion completes its purpose and transforms. In modern language, we might call this emotional intelligence or mindfulness, but Ibn Arabi's insight goes deeper. He did not see emotions as personal flaws to be corrected, but as divine signals, waves from the ocean of consciousness, reminding us of our deeper nature. Every tear, every heartbeat, every moment of joy or sorrow is the infinite speaking through the finite form of your life. When you honor these reflections, you come into harmony with the truth of your being. Let's bring this into a simple human example. Imagine you are facing a period of anxiety or illness. The natural reaction is to ask, "How do I make this go away?" But if you look through Ibn Arabi's lens, the better question is, what is this showing me about how I live? Maybe your anxiety reflects a life disconnected from purpose, or a fear of losing control, or a forgotten trust in divine timing. The symptom becomes a mirror that shows not what's wrong, but what's ready to be understood. This is why fighting symptoms often leads to temporary relief, but not true healing. You might silence the reflection, but if the inner cause remains unseen, it will appear again in another form. Healing, therefore, is not fixing it, is awakening. It is seeing what the mirror reveals, with honesty, humility, and love. One of Ibn Arabi's central teachings was that the divine hides behind appearances so that we may come to know it through reflection. Every situation, pleasant or painful, is a mask of the beloved. When you are ill, the beloved is showing you where you have forgotten the sacredness of your own body. When you are betrayed, the beloved is teaching you the value of trust and discernment. When you experience joy, the beloved is letting you taste your own divine essence. Each moment, no matter how ordinary, is a mirror of God's unfolding within you. He often spoke of the perfect human, the one who has polished the mirror of the heart so completely that only the divine is seen in it. This perfection is not about moral purity or control. It is about clarity of perception. The more you polish your mirror through self-awareness, compassion, and presence, the clearer your reflection becomes. You begin to see life not as a random series of events, but as a continuous dialogue between you and the source. In this way, healing becomes an act of perception rather than resistance. The body heals because the heart has seen clearly. The mind quiets because it no longer fights what is. Even modern science acknowledges that our thoughts and emotions influence our physical health. Ibn Arabi would say they do so because the inner and outer worlds are one continuous mirror. When the inner world is aligned with truth, the outer reflection naturally changes. Living by the law of reflection means accepting responsibility for your inner state, not in a way that blames yourself, but in a way that empowers you. You realize you are not a victim of external circumstances. You are a co-creator of the reality you experience. Every reflection gives you a choice: remain unconscious and repeat the pattern, or awaken and transform it. Healing begins the moment you choose awareness. This awareness also brings humility. You start to see that everyone else is going through the same process, each person reflecting and learning from the mirrors in their own life. When you understand this, compassion grows naturally. You no longer judge others harshly because you know they are also meeting their own reflections. This compassion is itself a healing force. It softens the heart, relaxes the body, and restores harmony to the soul. Ibn Arabi's law of reflection invites us to turn every experience into a mirror of understanding. When something painful arises, instead of resisting it, we ask what part of ourselves it reveals. When something beautiful happens, we let gratitude deepen our awareness of unity. Over time, this way of living transforms the entire perception of health. You stop chasing healing as something to achieve and begin to live healing as a state of being. The mirror of life will always reflect what is within. When you fill your inner world with fear, anger, or self-doubt, the reflection will show it. But when you fill it with love, trust, and remembrance of your divine origin, the reflection changes. The world itself seems to shift. Relationships improve. The body becomes lighter. The heart opens wider. What once looked like chaos now appears as order. What once felt like pain now feels like purification. The law of reflection is not a theory. It is a living truth you can witness every day. Watch how your mood changes the way people respond to you. Notice how gratitude draws ease into your life. See how kindness brings calm to your own heart. These are not coincidences. They are reflections. The universe is always showing you who you are. To live this law fully is to realize that healing is not somewhere you go. It is something you see. When you see clearly, the illusion of separation fades, and life begins to mirror harmony back to you. You understand that nothing outside needs to change for peace to arise within. The mirror only shows what you hold before it. Change the image, and the reflection changes instantly. In the end, Ibn Arabi's law of reflection teaches that life itself is your greatest healer. Every experience, every emotion, and every encounter is a mirror showing you the way home, to awareness, to compassion, to the truth of who you are. When you look at the world not as a battlefield, but as a mirror of your soul, healing becomes inevitable. You stop running from pain and start learning from it. You stop seeking love and start recognizing it everywhere. That is the essence of this law. The world is your reflection. When you honor it, listen to it, and learn from it, you awaken the light within, and that light heals everything it touches. The third and final principle in Ibn Arabi's teaching on healing is the law of presence. If the first law, unity, reminds us that all existence is one, and the second, reflection, shows that this unity reveals itself through mirrors, then the third brings the journey home. The law of presence is where healing truly takes root. It teaches that wholeness is not found in the past or the future, but in the living moment. It is here, right now, where the divine breathes through you, where the body restores itself, and where the heart rediscovers peace. Ibn Arabi wrote that the divine is always present, unceasing, unhidden, and near. The only veil between the soul and the source is forgetfulness. We drift into memories of yesterday and fears of tomorrow, and in that drift, we lose contact with the living pulse of existence. Healing begins the instant you return to this moment, because in presence, you reconnect with the energy that sustains all life. Presence is not an idea or a technique. It is a state of being where awareness replaces distraction, where silence speaks louder than thought, and where the heart becomes still enough to hear truth again. He often described life as an endless act of divine self-disclosure. In every heartbeat, every breath, every movement of time, the infinite reveals itself. But only those who are truly present can witness this unfolding. To be present is to meet the divine in its purest form, not in memory, not in expectation, but in direct experience. And that experience is the medicine every soul needs. When you are fully present, the mind stops fighting the body. Worry dissolves, because worry can only exist in time that is not now. Regret loses its grip, because regret feeds on what has already passed. Anxiety fades, because anxiety imagines what has not yet come. In presence, the mind has nowhere to run, and so it becomes quiet. In that quiet, the body begins to repair itself naturally, without the interference of fear or resistance. Modern science confirms what Ibn Arabi knew intuitively. The state of mind affects the state of the body. When the mind is restless, the body tightens. Hormones of stress flood the bloodstream, and the immune system weakens. When the mind is calm and centered, the body's natural healing mechanisms awaken. But Ibn Arabi's understanding went beyond biology. He saw presence not just as mental stillness, but as sacred awareness, the remembrance that every breath is infused with the presence of the divine. In that awareness, healing is not just physical, it becomes spiritual renewal. Think of how the body behaves when you bring attention to it. Close your eyes and feel your breath. The moment you notice it, it slows down. The moment you bring awareness to your shoulders, they release tension. The simple act of noticing changes the body. That is the power of presence. It is pure awareness, transforming energy into balance. Ibn Arabi called this witnessing, the ability to stand before existence with full attention and no judgment. When you witness yourself, your pain, or your thoughts with openness, you align with the divine consciousness that sustains all things. Presence is the meeting point between the seen and the unseen. It is where the soul and the body touch. In the present moment, the eternal expresses itself through time. The infinite becomes visible as you. To live in presence is to live in harmony with reality. It is to stop resisting what is and to start flowing with the rhythm of life. That flow is the natural condition of health. But presence requires courage. The mind is addicted to distraction because distraction is safer than truth. To be present means facing yourself completely, your emotions, your fears, your stories, your desires. It means standing naked before the mirror of life and saying, "I am here." Yet, this vulnerability is the gateway to freedom. When you stop running from yourself, the healing energy of awareness begins to circulate through every level of your being. You start to feel whole again, not because the circumstances change, but because your relationship with them changes. Ibn Arabi often spoke of the heart as the throne of the divine presence. When the heart is clouded by noise, anger, greed, or fear, it cannot reflect that light. But when the heart is still, the light shines through, unobstructed. The purpose of presence, therefore, is to polish the mirror of the heart until only truth remains. In this polished state, the healer within awakens. The soul remembers its unity, the body relaxes, and life flows effortlessly. He taught that prayer, meditation, or remembrance are not acts of asking, but acts of returning. When you pray with true presence, you are not sending words into the sky. You are tuning your awareness back to the divine frequency that is already here. Healing begins the moment you stop searching and start seeing. Every cell of your body is held within this presence. Every thought arises and fades within it. You are not separate from it. You are an expression of it. Imagine sitting quietly in the midst of a storm. The winds of thought howl, emotions rise and fall, memories flash like lightning, but in the center, there is a still point that does not move. That still point is presence. It is the space from which all experience arises and into which it returns. When you live from that center, even pain loses its edge. You can witness it, breathe through it, and let it pass. Healing happens not by suppressing the storm, but by remembering that you are not the storm, you are the sky in which it moves. Presence also heals relationships. Most conflict comes from people reacting unconsciously, lost in the stories of the past or fears of the future. When you are present with another person truly listening, without judgment, you create a field of safety and understanding. In that field, hearts begin to open and old wounds start to mend. Ibn Arabi said that seeing the divine in another is the highest form of love, and that seeing is only possible in presence, when the mind is quiet enough to recognize the sacredness in every face. The law of presence is also the art of surrender. It is not passive resignation, but active trust. It is the realization that in this moment, everything is exactly as it should be for your growth. Even pain has a purpose. Even silence has a voice. When you resist what is, you create suffering. When you accept it, you create space. And in that space, transformation happens. The body can heal, the heart can forgive, and the soul can remember its true nature. Ibn Arabi compared presence to light. It does not fight darkness, it simply reveals it. The moment you bring awareness to your pain, the moment you breathe into it instead of resisting it, something shifts. The darkness softens and understanding arises. You begin to see that pain was never the enemy. It was the messenger guiding you home. Presence allows you to hear that message clearly. Living in presence does not mean escaping daily life. It means bringing awareness into every part of it. Eating becomes sacred when you taste each bite with gratitude. Walking becomes meditation when you feel the ground beneath your feet. Listening becomes healing when you are fully there for another soul. Even breathing becomes a prayer when you recognize the life that moves through you. This is how presence transforms the ordinary into the divine. Healing through presence is not always dramatic. It happens quietly, in the background, like dawn spreading across the sky. One day, you realize that the anxiety that once consumed you has faded, that the tension in your chest has eased, that peace visits you more often. This is the result of being here, fully alive, fully aware. Ibn Arabi would say that you have stopped searching for God and started seeing Him in every breath. The greatest obstacle to presence is the belief that you are separate from the moment. You think healing will happen later, that peace will come when things improve. But the truth is, healing happens only here, only now. The past is memory, the future is imagination, and the present is reality. When you step into that reality with full awareness, time itself seems to dissolve, and all that remains is being. That being is wholeness. It is what you have been seeking all along. In this state, gratitude arises naturally. You begin to see that every experience, pleasant or painful, was guiding you to this awareness. The illnesses, the losses, the challenges, all serve to bring you back to yourself. Presence reveals that nothing was wasted, nothing was meaningless. Everything was part of the path. And when you understand that, your heart opens in deep acceptance, and that acceptance is healing in its purest form. Ibn Arabi's law of presence is not about perfection, it is about participation. It invites you to participate in the miracle of this moment with full attention. The more you live in presence, the more you realize that life is not happening to you, it is happening through you. You are not a separate observer. You are a living expression of divine consciousness. When you remember this truth, you are healed, because healing is simply the recognition of wholeness. So if you are seeking healing of body, mind, or spirit, begin here, right now. Feel your breath, sense your heartbeat, notice the life moving through you without effort. This is presence. So, this is where the divine meets you. This is where the healer within awakens. And when you dwell in this awareness, you understand the essence of all Ibn Arabi's laws, that unity, reflection, and presence are not steps to healing, they are healing itself. For in the silence of the present moment, where nothing is missing and nothing is separate, you realize the ultimate truth. You were never broken. You were only asleep to the perfection that has been here all along. And so, we come to the heart of Ibn Arabi's message, the timeless truth that healing is not something you chase, but something you awaken to. His 3 hidden laws are not steps in a process. They are 3 mirrors, reflecting one reality. The law of unity reminds you that you are never separate from the source of life. You are not a fragment lost in the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself through this body, this mind, this moment. Healing begins when you stop seeing yourself as broken and start remembering your wholeness. The law of reflection teaches that life is always speaking to you, showing you what lives within. Every challenge, every ache, every joy is a reflection of your inner state. When you stop resisting the mirror and begin to read its message, awareness transforms suffering into wisdom, and the law of presence brings it all together. It reminds you that the only true place of healing is now, not in the memory of yesterday or the hope of tomorrow, but in the living breath of this very moment. When you are fully present, your heart becomes clear, your body begins to restore itself, and your soul feels at home again. Ibn Arabi's wisdom is not ancient philosophy locked in books. It is living truth, waiting to be experienced. It calls you to remember that the healer you seek has always lived within you. The divine light that created you has never left. It only waits for your awareness to return to it. So the next time pain visits you, instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" When life feels heavy, remind yourself, "I am not separate from the source that gives me life." When fear arises, return to presence and breathe until you remember that you are held by something infinite. Healing is not the absence of pain, it is the awakening of understanding. It is the moment you realize that every experience is guiding you back to unity, that every reflection is a message of love, and that every breath is an invitation to be fully here. Ibn Arabi's 3 hidden laws are not promises of instant transformation, but doorways to truth. The more you live by them, the more life begins to flow effortlessly. The body responds to peace, the mind aligns with clarity, and the soul remembers its origin. You are not here to conquer your wounds. You are here to listen to them. You are not here to escape life. You are here to live it with awareness. The moment you understand this, the healer within awakens. So, return to unity. Read the reflections. Stay present. For in doing so, you will discover that the divine was never far away. It has always been here, beating in your heart, breathing through your body, and waiting patiently for you to remember. You were never broken. You were always whole.